kick, Manny. How are you?
I love it. Doing good. We are back.
All right. Reminder, if you're not aware, lots and lots of things are changing in our industry right now. Statistically, legally, functionally. And if I've ever advocated for you to attend the State of the Atlanta real estate market, this is the one. I would highly encourage everybody to attend. We charge $20 so you don't take the free ticket and not show up, but you get a drink and a Coke or popcorn or whatever. And at least that might be a deal at the movie theaters these days. I don't know, Manny. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Got a little sun and real estate never sleeps. So we've been hitting it hard.
There you go. Well,
Yeah.
I trust everybody had a good 4th of July. And I wanted to start with one article real quick, specifically to that, because I think it's a big part of our industry, which is the article on Inman says rise above market hurdles to help buyers attain the American dream. And I've talked about this many, many times. And Manny, what I'd say is you realize from a psychological perspective, the three big moments in people's lives are when they get married, they buy a house, and they have a baby. So you're either a clergy profession marrying people, you're a OBGYN profession helping people have babies, or you're a real estate professional helping people buy their slice of the American dream. And it's a big deal, right? And as economic factors change, interest rates, affordability, all that doesn't change the psychological aspect of people wanting to own a piece of the American dream, which is real estate, right? What do you say?
Listen, I was reading through that article. I loved it. There were things that mentioned embracing change and seizing opportunities. We have technological advancements in AI in our industry. Community building is something we need to focus on, advocacy and education. So mindset is such an important thing for professionals in this industry, in my opinion. And these are all things that we are already doing. We're ahead of as part of Atlanta, honestly, is what I reflected on. We're already training to and facilitating these things. So I was feeling great after that article. I won't lie.
I just think 4th of July holiday, 200, 300 years ago, whatever it was, the not much has changed, right? Like that's one of the freedoms of living in America, and everybody has the opportunity to own a piece of the American dream. So it's certainly a moment of pride in our industry is a big, big part of that. All
Yeah.
right, let's hit numbers. Now, before I pull these up, we're coming off a holiday weekend. So before I even show you, you should see the numbers down. One, people take vacations during the holidays. Two, real estate professionals take vacations during the holidays. So, yes, the numbers are down just a little bit, just giving you the context. So in Fulton County, we'll start in Fulton County. New active listings. So this number is not everything active in the marketplace. This is new active listings coming to the market. The new supply over the last 7 days was 726. So obviously, if you look back previous weeks, that's a really low number. However, uh, sellers and real estate professionals always time their property hitting the market around holidays. So I'm not surprised at that. I think it'll be higher next week, obviously. You see that number in properties that went under contract, 57, much lower. I think 2/3 of Atlanta went on vacation or to the lake or to a pool over the last 4 or 5 days. So uh, to be understood, 120 coming soon. So if that doesn't tell you that this number's coming, I don't know what does. Look at the outlier of that number compared to previous weeks. So
That's
they
it.
said, hey, I'm going to put my house on the market. I just don't want you showing it while I'm popping fireworks off in the front lawn over the holiday weekend, right? Um, 237 pending, which is a little bit lower. This number shouldn't have been as affected. Yet closings, we still closed out 167 properties over the last 7 days, given that Thursday and Friday in most people's calendars were holidays,
Yeah.
right? So all in all, I don't put any weight on these numbers outside of the fact that, hey, there was still activity and good activity. It just wasn't the same level we were experiencing the weeks before. If I run over to the cab, same kind of story, right? 430 new active listings to the market, 61 active under contract, a little popping coming soon, but not a lot. And then 167 pending, which is still a pretty strong number considering. And then 103 closed out, which the week prior was 133. So if we lost 30 closings, or we pushed 30 closings from Thursday and Friday forward, I'll take that. It's still a little bit off, right? All that to say, I just like hitting the numbers regardless of them being low due to a holiday. 393 in Cobb County, almost half. Nah, not exactly half, but a third, right? And then 92 active under contract, which is not too far off. And then 29 coming soon, 191 pending, which is only two less than it was a week ago. And then 116 closings. So for a 4th of July calendar disrupted week, I'll take it. What would you say, Manny?
Listen, I love seeing those under contracts because I won't lie. If you're out there, if you're one of the people that stayed and you were working, and I know agents were, hopefully you got a good opportunity there. It wasn't as busy and people were taking their breaks and you were striking. So I like to see it. And the coming soons, keep your eye on those because we're about to be real busy.
All right. Let's move into some bigger stats for a minute. This is what the market is looking like halfway through the year. So, from just a home sales perspective, this year compared to last year, can I just say June sucked compared to last year? But here's the truth. If you look at June 2024 compared to July 2023, it's not as drastic. So maybe our peak was May this year, where last year it was May and June. So maybe we've started our descent into the end of the year already, but overall June was decent, not great in terms of home sales, right? That's a pretty significant drop from a year ago, just for awareness. But then you go into pricing, we're still up from 2023, but if you look more uh, aggregate from a month perspective, June pricing came in at 409,000 in MLS, FMLS, and 454,000 in the greater Atlanta area. If I just take FMLS, you know that pricing peaks in the summer months and slows down to the winter months and then goes back up in the summer months and then slows down in the winter months and goes up in the summer months. So right now, in spite of less homes selling, in spite of higher inventory, which we'll get to, pricing went up $9,000 in the month of June. Explain that.
Wow.
I'm waiting.
it's
It's hard to
it's
explain.
it's a wild market. Yeah, I mean that's the best way to put it. And I talk to professionals that have been in this, 15 years, and there are some new occurrences happening here that we can't define.
Yeah. So pricing is not necessarily taking a hit in Atlanta. I study a couple different cities for comparison, And we're a little bit of an outlier right now in terms of pricing. Not everybody's having price appreciation in the current climate like we're having in Atlanta. And I do think it's going to slow down. History tells us it slows down from the summer towards the end of the year. Yet we're still on the up climb. Maybe we peaked in June and it's going to come back down in July. But overall, I'm not seeing big price change yet. Um, then inventory. We've been talking about inventory and days on market. Days on market went up 1 day. So April was 15, May was 14 days on market, July or June was 15 days on market. So I expect days on market to go up. But 15 days on market is just uh, astronomically low if you pull the time frame out over years. So maybe that's why pricing's still going the way it is our days on market is still pretty hot.
Yep.
But you can see historically, if I move my cursor, we bottom out in the summer and days on market goes up towards the end of the year and peaks in January and then comes back down in the summer. So if you look at this curve, we hit the valley and we're probably going to start to experience a little more days on market going forward, right? Um, and the one that I'm watching like a hawk is this inventory. So we've been climbing, um, yet we're at 3.6 months of inventory. I will tell you, uh, other markets, that's really low. Although we might think it's high, other major metropolitan areas, that's pretty low compared to what other cities are experiencing. Um, However, it's still higher than we're used to over the last couple years and expect it to continue to go up, guys. I think it won't be too long before we're over 4 months of inventory. And I believe that's when pricing gets affected. So some of the other big metropolitan areas are over 4 months, and maybe that's why their pricing starting to get affected and ours is not. But we're watching this as it continues to climb. One cool stat, Manny,
Yep.
is the population number for Atlanta came in for 2023, and the city grew last year. So 2023 came in at 6.3 million and 2022 was 6 point, I need glasses, 6.239. So
Mhm.
not a giant jump in population, but it never is. But our city grew.
It added an extra 3 minutes to my commute. I felt it.
Oh, geez. But at the end of the day, a growing population is a key factor for the real estate industry, and that's good for us.
Yeah, we
Um,
talk about it a lot. Film, tech, warehouse jobs. There's still incentives for them to move here, and that's what we're seeing.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I want to talk about a weird thing for a minute. So unemployment is in Atlanta in May came in at 3.4%. So if you ever studied economics, uh, the U.S. Standard, if you will, or the number that they target is 6%. So anything at or below 6% unemployment, they consider economically good. And so we actually are at 3.4. It went up from 2.8 in the month before, but 3.4 historically is really good unemployment from an employment standpoint. However, we found this one article, and let me pop it up. that says why more layoffs could be coming in the second half of 2024. Now, this is a double-edged conversation. If you or some loved one were affected by a layoff, that's a negative, like that's not fun. That's a negative perspective around being laid off. However, globally in an economic conversation, if unemployment were to rise ever so slightly, I believe from a global economic standpoint, that helps the inflation conversation. That puts pressure on interest rates to stay or come down. And economically, that could be a good thing for us in our industry. Yet, obviously, if you or one of your loved ones were to be affected by that, that would be a negative thing, right? So I want to make sure I'm sensitive in this conversation that if somebody were to be affected by a layoff, there's pain inside of that. There's feeling we want to be empathetic around. And in terms of economics, it's probably a good thing, by and large, that unemployment come up a little bit. And I'll show you just from a statistical perspective. Um, if you look at unemployment, remember I said 6% was kind of the number, right? Well, before the pandemic, Atlanta was around 4% or 3.5%. And obviously, the pandemic created an artificial unemployment. But we settled back in after that at around 5%. And then we went to, you could almost call it hyper employment, meaning anybody that wanted a job could more or less get a job. But if this number were to come back up to 4.5 or 5%, I think economically that would be healthy for us long term. And this is one of the factors that I think the Fed is would probably be encouraged by if unemployment were to rise a little bit. And if you put the interest rate environment on top of this graph, what were interest rates in 2019? Sub 3%, right? And then what were interest rates post pandemic? Probably in the fours, right? But then the Fed started raising rates and unemployment went historically low. So if unemployment went the other direction, I think it could put pressure on the Fed to pull down the interest rates a little bit, to spur the economy. Does that make sense?
Yeah. This is why I love this call, Brett, because realtors are not meant to be economists, right? But by understanding this at this level, we can add context because you have to understand the good and the bad.
There you go. Uh, any questions on that? I'm certainly happy to take any, but I do think unemployment is, that's why we track it, because it's one of those economic factors that drastically plays into the global picture of the real estate industry. Obviously, you have to have money to put down a good credit rating and a job. So if you don't have a job, that's not a good thing. Yet it certainly plays into the climate the Fed thinks about when they're adjusting interest rates and all the ability to change the monetary policy of the U.S. So it came up a little bit. 3.4 is we hit 3.4 in June 2023, and we were at 3.5 in August 2023. So we haven't seen 3.4. There was probably about a 2-year period here that we were below 3.4. So just something to pay attention to. And I think it's like I said, there's empathy on one side and there's optimism on the other side. And we want to give you both sides of that coin. All right. Couple other things you're going to read about in the news is the lawsuit that basically revolutionized or made some revolutionary changes to our industry. There are sellers that are appealing it. And I don't think it's going to do much to our day to day right now, but I want to make sure I touch on it, Manny, because I want to make sure you're hearing our commentary around it versus just reading some news media attention grabbing headline. Um, Basically, what this is they felt like the settlement was too low. There's a group of sellers out of South Carolina that have filed an appeal against the settlement that is attempting to take it to a higher court. And I don't think they're changing the functionality of the lawsuit. They're changing the dollar amounts of the lawsuit. And their argument, just so everybody understands, is because the national lawsuit in Missouri settlement, they feel like their interest in South Carolina, and their argument is because real estate is done different in states and different in different MLSs, that their interests weren't handled appropriately and blah, 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 blah. Here's what I think this means to us. Be aware, one. Two, it's above our pay grade. Let the lawyers fight this out from a legal standpoint. And three, the function of the lawsuit isn't going to necessarily make too many changes going forward that haven't already been made. And it's just something to be aware of. And quite honestly, it's probably a little bit of an annoyance of the sense that it's going to drag this whole conversation out longer. One, two, uh, the uh, the next conversation is probably a little more important than what this one is, but I wanted to make sure everybody was aware this is happening. You're going to read about it in the news. Manny, any commentary you'd add on that?
I think just I was thinking about scripts, right? Because people will throw this at you in a grocery store, they'll throw it at you in a listing presentation. And I think it's honestly, it's kind of fine to say, listen, we live in a very litigious country. This is just proof of it, right? People can drag this out all they want. Interestingly enough, it also drags out, the parties receiving their payment from it. So it's out of our control. We just have to do the best. And again, in Georgia specifically, our contracts were written differently, not a ton has changed. And I think it's important that we reiterate that to our clients.
100%. All right. So the Department of Justice, who is the Department of Justice? So the Department of Justice is the big brother government agency that protects business. And they've been paying attention to our industry, but have not necessarily or specifically gotten involved at this point in time. Where I think this is important for us to pay attention to is the Department of Justice or the Assistant Attorney General met with the National Association of Realtors to create open dialogue around the changes moving forward. I think this is smart by the National Association of Realtors to be in dialogue with the Department of Justice to make sure they understood our positioning and how we were moving forward. But here's my comment on this. The headline reads, Department of Justice has close eye on settlement workarounds, NAR president says. So if you attend a class on the NAR settlement or contract changes or any of these new things to our industry, 9 out of 10 questions in the room ask questions around, well, can I do a workaround? can I just put it in the MLS this way? Or can I encrypt what I'd be willing to do inside of my commentary? Or in the truth is the workarounds is what the Department of Justice is paying crazy attention to right now. And we don't need to play the game that way. We need to understand the rules and create a strategy to go win and stop putting energy to the workarounds, because the workarounds, if we ever were to even play the game that way, the Department of Justice is going to come in and shut it all down anyway. So if your brain goes to what's my workaround here, I would challenge you to take the energy you're putting to the workaround and reallocate that energy into what's my strategy to go win. Because I do believe there's not going to be some legal loophole that's going to allow us to disclose any kind of compensation in the MLS. I do believe the legal contract changes, especially in Georgia, are very specific, addressing the proper way to handle all this. And it's just funny to me because I've sat in these classes and I've talked to people that have sat in these classes. And if you just listen, all the questions around, hey, can I do this loophole or can I do this workaround? And that's what's going to get our industry in trouble. What's
Yeah.
not going to get our industry in trouble and cause us to thrive is what's the energy we're focusing on our strategy to go win in spite of the changes, in addition to the changes. Manny, what do you say?
Listen, there were two things I loved about this. One, it was NAR and DOJ coming together. Another really interesting one I noticed is they also had present Gary Acosta, who is the CEO of NAREP, which is the largest minority trade group in real estate, period. I thought that was interesting because this is what we want to point to when we get asked these questions, right? Because this is parties coming together to make sure we're looking out for our clients and protecting them. That is the whole point. That is what our clients want to hear. So this is the script right here. You point to these articles, right? It's the most important thing we can reiterate.
There you go.
Right.
It was on multiple news media outlets. This is RIS Media. And they're just saying the NAR and DOJ meeting sparks industry-wide dialogue around settlement workaround. Industry leaders and stakeholders are trying to keep their relationship with the DOJ amicable as the August 17th deadline approaches. I actually think the August 17th deadline is going to get pushed because of the appeal on the previous article we were talking about. But we do not want the Department of Justice coming down on our industry. That would be a very negative thing towards progress. So the more dialogue we have to make sure the way we do business satisfies the Department of Justice, satisfies the NAR settlement, the healthier we're going to have to be able to move forward as an industry. And I feel like we already have, and we're positioned, especially in our group. We're talking about this every week and we're training on this. And we're not just training on the changes, we're training on the strategy to win. And if you're not leaned into those conversations, you absolutely should. You should not be afraid of these conversations. I always use the analogy, Manny, I use the analogy of Monopoly. And I'll say this, you've probably heard me say it 100 times. But if you and I were going to sit down and play the game of Monopoly for the very first time, the first thing we're going to do is read the rule book because we got to understand how to play the game. But the very next thing we're going to do is create a strategy to win. And I'm going to buy up all of Boardwalk and Park Place, and you're going to buy the railroads, and I'm going to beat you because I own Boardwalk and Park Place, and that's my strategy, right? But the truth is, the rule book is what the rule book is. The strategy is how you take your unfair share. The rule book is what the rule book is around this NAR settlement and the Department of Justice and how they want our industry to play the game. But they don't get to dictate our strategy of winning. We do. And that's how we're going to move forward.
Yep, I agree. I just threw up the link, the NAR settlement FAQs. If you need to stay up to date, if you get that random email question thrown at you, this is where, you know, a great resource for questions that you may encounter. So I always love checking on that.
There you go. And Luke will add that to Circle as well. So guys, we start and end on time. It's 11:30. Happy Monday. I hope everybody's well rested from the 4th of July and have all 10 fingers and 10 toes and nobody lost one with any fireworks. So have a good week.
Have a great one, y'all.